Hello and welcome back to Colonial Mackinac. My name is LeeAnn and I am here in our commanding officer's kitchen once again, and I'm going to be making up a pot of hot chocolate. 18th century hot chocolate is a little bit different than our modern hot chocolate. It's oftentimes much richer and sometimes could even be treated as almost a meal in and of itself. We actually know here at the fort in the 1770s, there was a fur trader named John Askin, and he kept a lot of his papers. In one of his letters, he writes that in his household, they were running low on supplies. They only had enough so that his wife could have tea, and he and the children had chocolate for breakfast in the mornings. So if you think of this kind of like almost a shake. And I'm going to go through the ingredients and I think you'll understand why they considered it that way a little bit more. So what I need is, of course, water or milk. Water is easier for us. We don't have a good supply of milk at Mackinac. Historically, it just doesn't keep very long unless you have a cow, which the Askins did. However, they're not always milking. Milk doesn't keep very well. So water is what I'm going to use today. And again, it has been heating in the fireplace, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the kettle out. I can see steam coming out of it already, so I'm certain it's quite hot. So it's going to go into our chocolate pot. And the chocolate pots are specific for making 18th century chocolate. They have a nice long handle off to the side, and the spout, and I'll turn it this way, the spout actually starts quite low to the pot. And that helps with the chocolate making process. So we'll put our kettle back in the fireplace just in case we need more hot water. So the next thing I need is my chocolate. This would have probably been processed either in Europe or in North America. There were a large number of chocolatiers in North America by the 1770s, but the chocolate itself would have been grown in Central or South America. Coming to Mackinac in cakes, sometimes it's also coming in powdered form. If you're making this at home, get yourself some really good high quality chocolate. Trust me, you'll love it. It's better with good ingredients. So I'm gonna break up our chocolate and throw it in the pot. Whoop. A few little splashes, but that's okay. I think for a pot this size, my preference is to have a lot of chocolate, so we're gonna use 2 cakes. This doesn't have any sugar or any additives to it, it's just the ground up chocolate. So we're going to be adding that sugar and that chocolate. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir to get it started melting and started dissolving. It's dissolving actually pretty fast. I can still feel some chunks in there, but oh gosh, it smells good already. Okay. There was also a gentleman that came here in the 1740s. He was an engineer, actually a quite young engineer, who came to do a survey for the military. He mentioned that the French ladies liked to visit one another. They spent their time chatting, catching up on news, and drinking chocolate or coffee. So it has a long history at our Mackinac site. So we've got our chocolate in the pot, we've got our hot water. The next thing we need is sugar. We have a lot of different types of sugar available to us here. Our common everyday cane sugar, our white sugar that we buy in 2020 is pretty well refined. They had that in the 18th century. It might come in a cone shape or it might come broken. On trade inventories, I've seen broken sugar, I've seen fine sugar, muscovado sugar. Our local sugar is maple. Not everybody liked maple sugar though. It was being used, it was here, but the preference really was for cane sugar from the Caribbean. And that of course would have been coming to Mackinac through the trade routes from Montreal or Albany getting shipped up the coast of the Atlantic or over from Europe, and then it was coming through the Great Lakes to Michilimackinac. So I like to stir in between each ingredient just to make sure we're doing good. So we've got chocolate and sugar. I like to add a pinch of salt and spices. Now, everybody spiced their chocolate differently. When you read recipes, you commonly will see things like cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves, ginger. You also see quite a lot of recipes calling for hot peppers or cayenne peppers. And I do have some of those here as well, but the first thing we're going to add is nutmeg. So let's see if we can, another one for the mice. Let's see if we can add some of our nutmeg. Talk about order of operations here. Nutmeg is one of my favorite spices. I really find myself using it quite a bit, even in even in my modern cooking. So if you don't, I highly recommend you give it a try. This would have come from Indonesia. In the 18th century, dropping nutmeg on the floor would not have been looked upon with kindness, I suspect. But let me gather up all the bits that I dropped. Let's see. One, there it is. All right, there's our nutmeg picked up. So we've got that. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon, of course, also would have been imported. We've got that in our pot. And then just a touch of ginger, which is going to add a little bit of heat. Not too much heat, but just enough. Maybe that much ginger. And I think we'll add a little bit of clove. Sometimes I do like to grind up the cloves. You can also put them in and they will flavor the chocolate whole, but then you have to strain them or work around them. So it's really best to grind them up a little bit. Okay. We've got our clove. And yes, that really does smell quite nice. And the last thing I'm going to toss in my pot is one of these beautiful long red cayenne peppers. These potentially could have come shipped in dried. We also have had success growing them at Michilimackinac. They do have a long growing season. We don't have them documented here, but they were a common enough ingredient that we are going to add that to our chocolate. And then I'm going to give it another stir. This wooden piece is a frother, and it really does its job nicely. So we'll froth it. We're going to let those flavors start to meld together. All right, I don't feel any chocolate chunks in there, so I think it's doing pretty well. And then the last ingredient is egg yolk. And some people get a bit squeamish about this ingredient, but it's actually really nice. We just started getting eggs again from our chickens. So it's, I believe, January, and our chickens have already started laying again. So there were actually quite a lot of them here. They're small and they're easy to transport. So historically, chickens came here at a really early date. And I'm going to mix up the egg just a little bit. And this is the tricky part. We don't want our egg to curdle. So I'm going to put a little bit of chocolate in here, mix it up. A little bit more chocolate. Mix it up a little more. All right, and that looks good. So doing it that way prevents the egg yolk from curdling. So that's going to go in the chocolate pot as our last ingredient. One final froth. Perfect. Now, ideally, this would sit overnight, and then in the morning, we would reheat it, froth it, and pour it out for a nice, yummy breakfast. However, it smells pretty good, so I think I'm going to try it right now. It's very nice. Chocolate for breakfast any day of the week. And I think that is, oh, and there's the spice. That's very nice. Well, our chocolate is finished. I would like to say thank you for joining me. We will be here at Colonial Mackinac all summer in 2021. If you are interested in helping to support our programs like this, please go to our website. The Mackinac Associates website has information on how to donate and how to become a member. So thank you so much for coming with me. Again, my name's LeeAnn. We hope to see you again.